What is up, Bat Family? Welcome to a brand new The Batman video. Today, we are carrying on the discussion series. If this seems a little bit different, it's because I'm having some issues with this camera, so I'm trying out my webcam. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it. Let me know down in the comments below, because yeah, it would just be useful for some feedback. Hopefully the quality is okay enough. But in other news, the Batman is now out, so you can well, in terms of digital, you can rent it. Maybe a lot of you have already watched it through things like HBO Max. The bonus scenes are also attached to that. I think there's even more on iTunes, such as really cool features that you may have seen floating around on Twitter. Some people are reposting little bits, such as one thing that really caught my eye is the anatomy of the wingsuit. Now, a lot of us thought that the wingsuit, when he pulls the side of his armor there, and when it kind of engulfs him, that it was quite a lot of CG. And don't get me wrong, they definitely touched it up with CGI. But little did I know that it was a practical effect. Like, the cape actually kind of goes round and kind of puffs around him like a little mushroom, if you know what I mean. And that was just awesome to see. A lot of you are also asking me about the possibility of a watch party, so I would love for you guys to let me know how many of you would turn up to that, if you would like to do that at some point. Obviously, I can't show it actually on the screen, the movie itself, but I could start like a little timer. We could do 3, 2, 1, play, and we all watch it together, and you'll have kind of like a commentary from me, I guess. I don't know, or just my reaction, and yeah, I won't be able to resist talking. So let me know if you'd be interested in a watch party. But today, we've got quite a few questions to go through as usual. As always, I will be trying to keep these up. I think the last one I did was a week ago. If you missed that, do try and check it out. But also, as I keep teasing recently, sorry for a delay on any kind of little bonus The Batman videos. I do have some planned. It's just a few things keep coming up, but don't worry, there are more in between Batman videos coming. But starting with number 1 here from Billy, is that Liccione? No, it's not Liccione, is it? I always butcher names. Billy says, makes my day every time one of these comes out. Random question or thought, but have you ever considered making a breakdown or just overall nostalgic review videos, oops, sorry for the notification, on the Batman the Animated Series or episodes? Being the same age as you, and I'm guessing a lot of the audience is, I feel like there'd be a huge market for that and the effect it had on everything Batman cinema, including Reeves. Such a transformational show and so much to take from / so many ideas to take from that it would be awesome, dude. And no one's better for the job than you. Thank you. I think that would be really cool as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm always looking for some kind of bonus content to put out on the channel at some points in time. You know, as you may know, like when you do content like this in between productions or shows, or even when you've got some other things going on, there's sometimes a little bit of quiet in between certain updates or shows I might be covering, or movies. So stuff like that is always something I want to work my way up to, like in terms of like output of content, covering everything I can, but also providing little bits of bonus nuggets of videos on the channel. And that would be really cool. I know Batman the Animated Series, as you said yourself, is a really big thing for a lot of people, including myself. I love it. I've got, like, as you can see right where my thumb is in the background there, that's the Blu-ray special edition of when they re-released it in Blu-ray quality. So I would love, actually, and they're not always the longest episodes as well, so I would love to go through it. Or maybe you guys could, if I do a community post, put down the top episodes you would like to see me review and go through, or something like that. And that could be like a little bonus thing we have going on the channel at the same time. Can't guarantee anything, but that's a cool idea from Billy there. And definitely something that I think a lot of people would appreciate. So Reese Vince says, what timeline are we looking at in this Arkham series? And is it confirmed? Would it be based during the first Pattinson movie, prior or afterwards? And will it have the same vibe as the Batman movie and actually stick to this darker and more gothic feel for the characters, as I love it? Good question. I think from what quotes Reeves has said, it does feel as though it might indeed be set after the movie. I wish I could paraphrase it from the top of my head, but he said something like, and this could be taken a few different ways, like coming off of our movie, something like that. So I can't guarantee it, because I do feel like, and this is one of my videos coming out at some point soon, they could tackle it a few different ways. Also, even if it is set after the movie, which I think could be one of the best things to do, because you could also just chuck in Barry Keoghan there if you want to, Paul Dano's Riddler, not talking loads and loads and loads of scenes. I don't even actually even fully expect that, but they could also start with the history of Arkham. Like, don't forget that the Arkham State Hospital has been around for quite a while, so the first episode, like the first 20 minutes, could scale through the history of that or something. But I would say for now that it could be a mix, but I do think predominantly it could indeed be set after the events of the first movie, like the Penguin show is. And yeah, I should have said this a couple of seconds ago, but I just found the quote online in between cutting here. So we've actually now moved more into the realm of exactly what would happen in the world of Arkham as it relates coming off of our movie, and some of the characters and their origins, almost leaning into the idea of it's like a horror movie or a haunted house that is Arkham. So that kind of answers the tone for you there. And I can't wait to do a bit of a deeper dive into this in a separate video, granted that we don't have too much to work with other than some words like that. It definitely will not only match and capitalize off the tone of what Matt Reeves set out with that of the Batman, but I think it's going to go even deeper. Kind of like how what we've heard from Colin Farrell, that the Penguin series might indeed be R-rated. So that is really awesome. It's got like a new filter over the filter of Matt Reeves is the Batman for that of a more mature audience. Now, you could kind of apply that with the Arkham series, but in more of a horror vibe. And just based off those words he says there, just going over it a little bit again there, these exact words of what would happen in the world of Arkham as it relates coming off of our movie, and some of the characters and their origins. Now, I don't want to get too taken away by that last bit there, the characters and their origins, but we have talked recently in a discussion series with regards to could there be other characters in there? And I was leaning more towards not many, maybe not even a few, but maybe one or two. But if there are one or two, I wouldn't expect it to be any mad, like hugely prolific kind of rogues gallery villains. But I can imagine someone like Zaz being in there, or like some of the characters and their origins could also speak to with what Reeves is saying here, almost leaning into the idea of it's like a horror movie or a haunted house that is Arkham. What if, as what we've spoken about recently, Jonathan Crane works there as a psychologist, you know, something like that. The head of psychology, and he's got a few psychologists under him working with certain patients. You could argue Hugo Strange is there, but yeah, that's kind of answers the question now. I'm going to do a bit more of a deeper dive into this, but yeah, it's got me super, super intrigued, and it definitely will have that Batman vibe, but yeah, even darker, because you're saying stick to the dark and gothic feel for the characters, but I think it's gonna go worse than that, if you know what I mean. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a shame about GCPD series, but I feel like with this being kind of puppeteered, if you know what I mean, by the same creative people, I'm really looking forward to seeing what quality these HBO Max series bring out of the Batverse world. Okay, so Matt Boyce says, Boba, great channel, love the Bat content, keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Matt. So with all of the HBO Max series coming out, how about a Joker one? I think they could really dive into the past of his scars and how he dealt with that growing up as a child, all the way through to how and why Batman put him away in Arkham. So, personally for me, I would probably say no. Only because I think that would be delving too much into the character of what makes this character fascinating in of himself. Granted that Gotham did this in a certain, you know, drib-drab kind of way. Like, you had little dribbles of it here and there with Jerome and then Jeremiah. I think that's the way it could only really be orchestrated, like, every now and again. But to do a show about the Joker would get rid of that kind of mysticism that allures us to that character. And granted that we do know quite a bit about the origin just through Matt Reeves saying he had to deal with people looking at him a certain way and he had a dark reaction to that, you know, speaking specifically about Barry Keoghan's Joker's origin here. I feel like seeing that would be a bit too far. I get totally your desire and many fans' desire, and hell, like even I have a bit of a desire where like if they film something like that, I'd be like, okay, I want to see this a little bit, you know, let me see that. But if I had the creative decision of, should we really dive into a Joker show, as you say, from the beginning, the past of his scars and how he dealt with that growing up as a child, I just think there is definitely a market for that for some people, but overall I think it would get a bit of a downvote from a majority of fans. Only in the sense of, yes, we know a little bit about the origin, as I aforementioned, but we still don't know exactly how, what, why, where it happened. We know that he's a killer, as Reeves said, that Batman put away during Batman Year One. But other than that, I don't think we need to have that delved into too much. And if we do have him delved into a little bit more, you could sprinkle him in the Arkham series. And I think that would be the best way to handle it, in my opinion. Even though I do get how, yeah, like if people wanted to see like Barry Keoghan's journey, his John Doe, granted that he's not even crowned Joker right now in the canon of the Batman. Like, even though he's in Arkham, he's not known as Joker. It would still be kind of cool to get a little bit of insight like that. But I just don't think for a big kind of overall decision that everyone would sign off on that. But again, don't rule out entirely that even though we might not see Joker so much in the movies in terms of, who knows, we might completely skip him out in the second movie. We might only then see him again in the third movie. It's way too, cloudy waters to predict that. They could just be like, hey, actually, let's dose him quite a bit, though, in the Arkham series. If it's set after the Batman movie, which these words do seem to kind of suggest coming off of our movie, it would be kind of hard to believe that this John Doe, who's snarky and conniving and mischievous, would just not be featured. I feel like his John Doe Joker has to be, somehow, if it is indeed set afterwards. But again, I've got a lot of ideas as to how they could tackle that series, and I'm really intrigued. I really am dying to know more about this. Really dying to know more. Especially as they favored it over the GCPD series. That should say quite a bit for what they have planned. So LP3 Minifig said, what happened to the Superman/Wonder Woman Halloween costume people? Do you think it hinted at a larger universe that Reeves decided, to cut out? This is why I got this water bottle on standby. So what happened to it? They're actually still there. Now, HBO Max have released, just in case you guys don't know this, even though you can watch the movie for yourself now, the first 10 minutes of the movie. So basically, in the behind-the-scenes filming, when we were covering it here on this channel, or quite a lot of places picked this up, they were filming the Halloween scene, where Bruce is like, Thursday, October 31st or something like that, and then he's walking throughout in the drifter mode, and you see all of those people dressed up in the Halloween kind of get-ups, and it's like, everybody's out for the holiday, even with the rain. That was the scene they were filming when we saw the Wonder Woman get-up, the Superman get-up. Granted, it didn't have the logo, but it was very evidently a Superman kind of thing and a Wonder Woman thing. They are still there, but you can only, briefly see the red cape. I don't know if I'm showing it on screen right now from the clip that was released. But they are there, but I think a lot more people thought it would be even more than that. And granted, maybe they did film more. It did seem deliberate in some scenes, or when they were filming it, from some photos captured from behind the scenes, that the Superman actor was kind of doing more. Not really the Superman actor, but someone dressed up. I think fans kind of got carried away there. I don't think it was meant to mean anything more than a very, 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 very subtle nod at all. There might be something out there, but that doesn't mean there technically is. But, let's play with the idea that Superman is out there somewhere and Diana is, by having two fancy dressed people on Halloween night. And if you see a little red cape fluttering somewhere, then, just make that of what you will. I think that's all it was intended for, even though that Superman has been referred to, I believe, in a newspaper, but it's not like you can ever... Well, not in name, but basically there was a bus full of kids pointing up to the sky for you-know-who. That's an abbreviated thing of what was said in the newspaper. But then, again, in the prequel novel, there was Metropolis mentioned. I think even, was it LexCorp? I can't remember. Either way, I don't think it's meant to be anything serious. Maybe they did film something extra, but they felt like that's too much of a nod. Matt Reeves doesn't have any particular interest right now to capitalize on that. I do not blame him whatsoever. This is a Bat versus those characters he's interested in telling. He doesn't need Superman to fly in. They're not creating a DC EU with this. At least for now, it's meant to be a self-contained kind of thing. But technically, I think he has somewhat said, who knows? Maybe down the line, they kind of might be out there. But for now, that's not my interest. That's kind of the way he's labeled it. But didn't stop him from, having a bit of fun and putting a little caped person and a Wonder Woman-esque looking person walking on Halloween night. So up next from Connor Woog saying, "Hey Boba, I just saw The Batman again last night and wanted to share my thoughts on the sequel with you. The sequel needs to be more of a fight than an investigation. For Batman's psychological development, it wouldn't make sense to have another slowly paced noir story. This could mean having multiple villains that Batman has to take down with the new power vacuum left behind after the first movie. There will still be investigating, but I think the next story will probably be more of a city story, just my opinion." Yeah, I think you're kind of just expanding somewhat on what I said a few videos back. I think I said something like that in terms of, I do expect, like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, or just the tones and the vibes of it all, was quite simply when we have Batman with Jim and the police and other detectives on the scene of the mayor's crime. Now, if you rewatch it again on HBO Max today, or even if you pull up the scene right now, the score in the background of that is very noir. You know, you have everyone, you know, taking pictures, doing different parts of their work and whatnot, investigating all of this, but it's not quite, you know, LA noir kind of, you know, sprinkled piano, but there are really heavy investigative kind of noir vibes there, and I think that will carry on, as you said, with, let's just say, and the easy example to use is Mr. Freeze in the second movie. Not that he's going to be the villain, but again, just an example. It will be more out there, as you say, more of a city kind of esque story in terms of, as I always say as well, there will be one poised up villain, just like the Riddler in the first movie. In the second movie, argument's sake and example's sake, Mr. Freeze, but you have other people, characters, like in the first movie, like Falcone, Catwoman, Penguin, etc, 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 etc. So in the second movie, you can imagine walking in on a, I don't know, freeze blasted location. They haven't caught up with this person yet, or maybe they escaped, but they're identifying, like, what is this substance? How is he able to do this? How is he, you know, everything's frozen, but they play the same similar score. So I do think there will be investigative, detective-driven vibes for sure. Matt Reeves most certainly isn't abandoning that, but yeah, I think after the Penguin has risen to a certain extent of power after his own HBO Max spin-off series, which will bridge the gap from movie number 1 to movie number 2, it won't be holding the whole responsibility of, oh, this is the series that is you're meant to watch in between these movies, like you absolutely have to, and it sets up the second movie. No. I think Penguin will be its own thing, but it will give you a bit of an idea of what is going on in Gotham at the time after the Batman. Given that the city, a large portion of the city is flooded, looting, National Guard, you know, mobsters fighting each other, Penguin likely crowning himself the Penguin, there will be more anarchy for Batman to deal with other than just the main villain, I assume. Or at least, even if there's not like left, right, and center thugs for him to beat up, there will be a new kind of position of players on the chessboard. So Penguin is the new Falcone kind of thing, or this person, that person, this person. Even though the city has healed a little bit, this is only a blink in terms of the long timeline of crap in Gotham that Batman has to deal with. And when I say blink of hope, that was apparent at the end of the movie. It's for the first time, as Matt Reeves said, the city's had a chance to breathe, but with that fresh breath, it's like, oh, when you exhale comes that, you know, carbon dioxide. It's such a weird analogy, but do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, oh, it's no longer oxygen, like the city's now going back down to like, hey, yeah, you know, oh God. With a fresh breath comes more labor, you know. However, there, to address what you said lastly, as for like a full-on, you know, multiple villain thing, I don't think that's going to be the second movie in terms of him having to take out multiple villains. I do think that could happen in the sense of, let's just say, Penguin gets in the way and is a pain in the ass in the second movie, on top of like someone like Mr. Freeze being the main antagonist. And little bits and pieces. You know, just kind of like the first movie. Falcone was there, Penguin was there. That could be seen as multiple villains on top of the Riddler, right? I think it would be done in that way. I don't know if it will be an all-out kind of warfare for Batman, you know, Dark Knight Rises style, going out in the crowd of people and fighting Bane, and there's all this crap going on everywhere. I don't think it'll be that level at all. An actual Arkham breakout kind of villain team-up, or what people have seen as maybe War of Joker and Riddle's Joker and Riddler kind of team up. Something like that could be reserved for the third movie if Reeves even wants to go there at all, but I don't expect a full thing like that. I think a lot of that warfare will be done in the Penguin series between the mobsters. I think Batman should be referenced quite a bit though, because I can't imagine Batman wants to let stuff like that just unfold on its own without any kind of intervention, because there's a lot of people who will get caught in the crosshairs as collateral damage for sure. Now, Little Sweet Lynn here points out something which I've been going to and fro between, because it's kind of like the realist takeaway in terms of why I haven't always committed to more than 3 movies. 3 movies for sure, like a trilogy, and the kind of realistic doubts that could make it just a trilogy rather than like 4 or 5 films, even though I love the optimistic outlook of, oh yeah, man, let's make it like a Star Wars or a Harry Potter kind of thing with this. So to read this out, something people have to consider with regards to more than 3 movies for this universe is that Rob is going on 36 this year. As much as he loves this role and he has a roadmap for 2 more, we don't know how much of a commitment more than 3 films will require. We don't even know what Reeves has in store in terms of the time jumps for the 2nd and 3rd films, much less the 4th, 5th, and 6th. That would mean possibly a decade or more that Rob would have to devote to just Batman, not to mention anything else he'd like to do either in front of or behind the camera. That's why, given this first film, I think a trilogy of films should focus solely on Bruce, Batman, and his character arc without the need of a Robin. Yes, Robin is a main character in the comics, but with the direction of the first film being about Batman's evolution from vengeance to Gotham hero, there's plenty more that can be addressed by Reeves about that, especially with bringing Bruce more to the forefront. By that, I don't necessarily mean as the playboy, but as Bruce, the respected philanthropist. Perhaps this Bruce does have a playboy phase, but eventually evolves to be that respected philanthropist that is known to all of Gotham. Personally, I don't think Reeves or Pattinson would want to put too much focus on Bruce's playboy side because of how shallow that part of him is. Both of them will want to give more meaning to the character than that. So yeah, I kind of more or less agree with that consensus in terms of the 3 films. It could go on for more than that. Even 3 films is like another 8 years or so away before that 3rd film releases to cinema screens, which is pretty crazy. Then imagine like a 4th and a 5th film. But it is still possible. I'm not raining on anyone's parade there. I would love more than 3 movies. But yeah, this is why I always talk about Robin like really seriously. It's like, okay, when I really try and ground myself to Robin being a possibility, I do say yes, it can be done in the end of the 2nd film to branch more of a 3rd film where at the end of the day, Dick Grayson can be a tool for the psychological development of Bruce Wayne in of itself. However, it does feel like more of a psychological character study that is printed out across 3 films. Now, again, the reason why I don't totally disqualify Robin there, at least Dick Grayson, is because he can be that tool, as I just said, to help further Bruce Wayne's and Batman's psychology and how he becomes that Dark Knight legend with, or at least, the personification version that you could have by the end of the 3rd movie. But again, it does, I always do keep going back and forth. Like, okay, so if we're doing Dick Grayson, does he really come in at the end of the 2nd movie? Do we really have a Batman and Robin heavy focused 3rd movie? The more you really grasp that, as much as it seems great in our minds to envision that sometimes in certain scenes, does it really make the most sense in the world, even though it can? Like, I see a version where Dick Grayson does come in at the end. He's at least introduced at the end of the 2nd film. Then in the 3rd film, maybe there's a bit of a time jump where we don't have to see, like, day 1, but, like, he's already, like, I don't know, like 12 weeks into living with Bruce, and I don't know. It's just, like, to start that journey, and let's just say the 3rd film is the last one, it feels like if you're doing Dick Grayson, and you're doing that mainly in the 3rd film, because I do feel like any sooner, like if you're fully bringing him in the 2nd film, that's way too premature in my opinion. But if Reeves found a way to do it, kudos to him, right? But if you're doing that in the 3rd film, it feels like, okay, we need a 4th and a 5th. It can't end on the 3rd film if you're only just really capitalizing on Robin there. So that's why in complete realism mode, or realist mode I have here, it does feel like, okay, are we really going to get to Robin? But I can't make my mind up, because I can really see, especially from little bits of commentary, even though that is probably just to entertain the question that they were asked at the press tour they were doing, yeah, sure, we would like to, you know, do Robin and stuff. Yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't you answer that, you know? But does that mean they will do Robin, like Batman and Robin? I don't know. I keep going all over the place with this in my videos. I would love more films, but is more than 3 going to happen with real-world things taken into account? I don't know. 3 films, I am so confident in that I would lay down money, you know? But does that mean a Robin would be in these first 3 movies? It just goes round in circles, even though I can easily imagine a Robin in this universe. That, by the way, when I say this, please don't ever misconstrue it. I'm not saying I can't imagine Robin. Like, I can literally imagine Robert Pattinson, this vibe, this tone, this gothic, this lens, everything with a Robin. You know, I really can. Not necessarily young Robin, more like, you know, aged down actor. I've been over that before. But yeah, I can imagine that, but will they do it? I really don't know. So I'd love for you guys to just, I guess, just expand in the comments below, mainly on what Lil Sweet Lynn has said here, just in that main paragraph of just everything I just read out, really. Just let's further the discourse with that down in the comments. So speaking of the whole Playboy stuff, next question's from Neve asking, where do you think they'll go with Bruce's character or personality? Do you think he will develop into the more familiar Playboy type, or that Reeves will continue the more sullen, reclusive Bruce? Something I'm both intrigued and concerned about. Yeah, I totally get the concern in terms of, well, I guess there's always preferences. Every single one works in terms of, you know, the Playboy. Even if they did go there, I wouldn't mind it because it could be a deliberate course of action he takes. However, I do agree with the consensus that I don't think, you know, kind of what Lil Sweet Lynn just said, that Reeves will necessarily go there. There could be a little bit of a homage to it in the movies, where even if we do have the philanthropist kind of version of Bruce doing something, he might get drunk and do something a bit outspoken, maybe, that you could be like, oh, that was a bit of a Playboy Bruce there or something. I don't know, but I don't think they're going to lean fully into that. I think it'll be more of a, like, the way you put it there is really perfect. That's the way I envision it, like more of a sullen, reclusive Bruce. I wouldn't say he's going to be as reclusive as he was in the first movie, but if you wanted to maybe overall say it, I would still say that, like, he would be introverted in the second and third movie, but the philanthropist side of him will be out, so I think he'll be trying to live up to his father's name, not necessarily opening like $1 billion Gotham renewal fund or anything like that, but I think he could be doing some more things, slowly but surely, you know, edging the tortoise head out the tortoise shell, if you know what I mean. He won't be like, oh, I can't have an effect out there. Like, I don't think he's going to be like that. But I don't think he's going to be fully like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other, you know? We spoke about this quite a lot in recent videos. To be honest, I think this is kind of an old screenshot. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up again is because, obviously, it's a continuing discussion that everyone is having every single video in the comment section. So my best way to put it is, if everyone is... I know everyone has different opinions on the Telltale series of Batman, but honestly, the Bruce Wayne in that, I feel like the way he is seen in public really does just kind of sum up where I think Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne could go. Not fully as, like, formal, proper, oh, yes, you know, people of Gotham, blah, blah, blah. But I think Bruce will be stepping out the shadow a little bit, at least as Bruce Wayne. But as for an actual full-on Playboy kind of Christian Bale telling people to piss off out of his mansion, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I could see Pattinson act that easily, but will that be Matt Reeves' direction? And I just have a little bit of doubt on that for now. But you never know. Who knows what could happen by the third movie. So just your average Cerbo? As always, I can't read names. But either way, do you think it's better to sideline the Joker in the sequel to introduce more of Batman's rogues and have him as the final villain of the trilogy? In the way that's presented, I would love for, like, I mean, I think that'd be really cool to have, like the Dark Knight of Heath Ledger, but as the third movie. Something like, you know, Joker being the pack-a-punch close to, if this is a trilogy, let's go out with a bang and bring the Joker in. But I know what everyone will say in the comments as we're, you know, this video unfolds or whatever, that, you know, Batman's other villains do need to step into the light. You know, that's why, arguably, do I think it's better to sideline the Joker? I think if Reeves does go along the route of continuing to use Barry Keoghan's Joker, even if he got out of Arkham and he's somewhat out and about in the second movie. I don't think it would be a massively prominent figure. We've talked about how the screen time could be similar to that of, or fewer even, than Colin Farrell's Penguin in the first movie, and he's just licking his wounds behind the scenes, you know, orchestrating a plan slowly but surely for that third movie. And even then, the third movie doesn't have to steal the limelight. You could still have other villains there, and it could be like an all-out rogues gallery, kind of long Halloween, you know, gallery of villains. This is why I always say this in these videos, but the responsibility that Matt Reeves must feel to make a sequel to a really good movie, this first one, with so much material to work with, he must have to switch so many like voices off in his head, being like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? But what about that character? But even if we're doing this character, does that mean that this character should still be in it? Like Joker, like slowly but surely, you know, he has to think about where things could go in the third movie, if a possible third movie happens. It's a really interesting thing to ponder, but do I think it's better for him to be sidelined? I think initially, yes. I would say yes, because I think it would be silly for me to say that I wouldn't want to see another Batman villain get their capitalization compared to what we've seen before. Like, I don't know, let's say Mad Hatter being like a fully fledged second villain, or some other kind of villain. I know Mr. Freeze has been done before, but clearly not as grounded as what we've had before. So talking about Mr. Freeze, we've done that a lot before. That can really, really be done. A lot of you have probably heard me talk about the astronauty, cosmonaut, grounded kind of way of doing his costume, or if you will. But even if you don't want to do Mr. Freeze, there are plenty of other villains out there. But I do feel like, at the same time, I do somewhat land on the fence of, you can't really finish off this Batman, you know, these next two movies without revisiting the Joker in some way or some shape or form. I'm not one of those people being like, there's a massive Joker fatigue out there. I think that's a bit of I mean, everyone has a right to feel the way they do, of course, but like, I feel like that's something that isn't particularly true. I don't think we've seen him a whole bunch, and even if you do feel like you're worn out for some reason or another, that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be a really new, refreshing take for Barry Keoghan to be really demonstrated in another movie in some new shape or form of a story with Robert Pattinson's Batman. But that doesn't mean he has to be in it as much as a Jack Nicholson Joker or Heath Ledger Joker. He really doesn't. Like, you know, it can just be dribbled throughout the next two movies slowly but surely. But I do think that he should be sidelined, at least for the second movie, to possibly a little bit of screen time, if at all, for the sake of us propelling another really badass Batman villain like what Matt Reeves did with the Riddler, but over to someone else. For example, Mr. Freeze or whoever. The way I feel like I need to end that question off is that I do just feel like we are going to see Barry Keoghan's Joker again. I don't know how Matt Reeves will do a second and third movie without touching on him. I just feel it in me, like he has to be seen again. I don't think he has to be capitalized upon to a massive extent, but there's just no way. Like, I feel like he will want to do more with him in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's just with the Arkham series, with what we've already discussed. Now, last question for today's video is from Dancho saying, hey Boba, a while ago you said that you believe Rob could very well be the definitive Batman. Now that you've seen the movie, is he the definitive Batman? I would say for me, he is my definitive Batman. Is he for everyone else? Not necessarily, because I can imagine some people would say, yeah, but technically Ben Affleck is not only my favorite, but he is my definitive Batman because he's also, you know, decades ahead in his career. What I mean by definitive is that I think, subjectively to me, he encapsulates a lot of, despite not being a massively experienced Batman, a lot of the characteristics, to the point of where I say, if you're a familiar kind of gamer, like if you're creating an RPG character, you choose your attributes, you know, your intellect, your stamina, your magicka, your endurance, your whatever, right? I feel like whatever makes up the quintessential Batman, I feel like Reeves distributed an even and balanced amount of points in every little sector. But definitive would still be a bit objectively argued there, because he still has development to go throughout this trilogy. Psychologically develop, quite literally. Like, he's going to change from what we've even seen in the first movie. Not drastically, in terms of, being a different personality entirely as Batman, but there is room for growth there. But I would still say he could be the definitive Batman, and he still is currently already for me a definitive one, because I still feel like from this movie he is Batman in so many ways, from the detective stuff to the way Robert Pattinson is just so well cast, and from the characteristics, the acting, down to the very demeanor of the character. I really love what Matt Reeves has just, birthed with this casting, and I don't know, I just love everything about it. And I know that sounds like such heavy bias, and like, don't get me wrong, I am biased. I love this Batman. I love this vision. But I would like to say, with trying to remove my bias here, not only is Matt Reeves giving us this innovation and capitalization with something that hasn't always been explored before, with a truly on-the-ground Batman, through and through, detective, with Jim, through and through again. Other Batman films, don't get me wrong, I love each and every one of them. Yes, even like BVS has its problems, I still like a lot about it, and I really like Batfleck a lot, but again, is it like a even spread of butter on the toast, like every single one before, like what Matt Reeves has managed to do here in my mind? I would say like the most successful even spread is this one, even with that room to develop. Like, we've still got so much more development with Batman in the city. He's only just now become the symbol of hope to the people of Gotham Wall, which I don't know why people forget this, because some people are complaining about that. Like, he's still a symbol of fear to the criminal element. Don't forget about that. But like, I would say, even if he's not definitive Batman for everyone else, by the end of the 3 movies, at least that we can assume, are happening for now, at least with that number 3, he will probably be a lot of people's definitive Batman, with like the second movie's development, the third movie's development of Bruce Wayne and Batman, his armory, everything like that. It's just, the things that he's going to have to endure ahead of him, what he already endured in this movie, and the transformation he went through organically, to putting vengeance behind him a bit, but also realizing what he can be and the effect he can have, while still not massively changing. Like, he's not gone from a black armored Batman to a pink looking Batman. Do you know what I mean? He's still the Batman we saw at the beginning of the film, but there's that development there. So that's why I always and already say the kind of character attributes that we've already got is definitive enough for me. I'm just here for the pudding and the DLC extensions that we're going to have on him in the second and third movie. Obviously, there's that room to grow. But I would say that I just, off vision, I think this is what we need to put it down to. Like, when you might watch some of the behind-the-scenes stuff and they talk about the casting and the vision and the tone that Reeves has for this world of Batman, not wanting to do exactly what came before, but being true to the character. On that DNA alone, with the casting, the vision, the vibe, the everything like that, it's something I'm truly attached to, and is by far, and I don't feel premature in saying this at all, because the movie's out, and despite the room to grow, this is something I keep going around in circles with this question. Like, yes, there's room to grow, but he's already got so many, I don't know how to explain it, he's already the character of Batman. It's just, yeah, he's my favorite Batman so far. I think he is definitive, albeit that he can be, it's a weird way to put it, maybe it's not the right word, he can still be more definitive with more growth, but at least even from the character we have at the end of the movie, he definitely fits the slot. The key goes in the door just perfectly, absolutely perfectly. And the good thing is, from here, like, considering if it's given the same level of care and quality and, more ambition as you bring out sequels, it's only going to get better from here. Like, ideally, it's only going to get better and better and better and better. Like, subtle improvements to the suit, not that I think it needs it, but hey, we've got all that to look forward to. The Batmobile, or like gadgets, things like that. God knows what's going to come our way. We know where it can go psychologically. Batman, not only now having faced Riddler in a very psychological, oh, you're kind of like a mirror of me, and I don't really want to see the ugly side of what you reflect out of me in a way. They talk a lot about that, and they have spoken a lot about that. But what if it's more of a physical front as well as an intellectual front? Mr. Freeze would be more kind of like, oh crap, need to dodge that ice blast, but like, you're a smart man. Mr. Freeze, things like that. Like, he's got a crucible ahead of him his whole life. even. This is what I think summarizes it for me. I feel like the guy, Robert Pattinson and Reeves, and this casting in this suit, the guy at the end of the movie looking at the chopper fly away, with every crucible and trial and tribulation he's got coming ahead of him, he is the definitive guy to do that. And I think I rest my case there. Like, that guy standing on that rooftop that you're seeing on screen right now, that's him. That is it. So that's why that reasoning, and however crappy way I'm articulating it right now, this thing in front of me, invisible, that I'm mystifying right now, that's it right there. But either way, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into today's discussion series video. As I've said before, I'm going to try my best to keep these up. I don't want to milk it, but, you know, since we're covering the Batman for years to come here and the other shows and whatever the Batverse may spawn, I have absolutely no quarrel with keeping up the discussion series, because it's a passion we all have. Like, and only as more news comes out, the more relevant it is to talk about as well. So, hope you guys enjoyed this one. I will be doing a new community post soon for more questions, so do keep an eye out for that. I would love to read every single comment on this video, so make sure you do leave one with anything we discussed, your thoughts, your feelings. At the end of the day, everyone's opinion is valid. Everyone feels differently. Some people feel the same. Either way, can't wait to read everyone's thoughts. If you're enjoying the channel, do check out some of my other videos as well. I cover quite a lot on this channel. Do subscribe, and hey, if you want to support the channel even more as well, just hit that like button. Really does help, and you can go above and beyond by clicking the join button. There's a couple of different membership tiers there, and if you're in my Discord server, one of the rewards is an exclusive rank that makes you stand out. I have Patreon, and I also have a merch store if you want to get some BobaTalks merch. I don't have the cap on me now, but I have a beanie, caps, and everything like that. That would go a long way to support the channel as well. But again, guys, just thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate, you know, the community we have here. But I'm going to love you and leave you now, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.